One of the most influential voices in the Trump movement, the man who served as the former president's chief strategist in the White House, set the stage for Donald Trump at an event this weekend in Michigan by declaring that if Democrats win in November, if they steal it, Steve Bannon said, the republic ends. To the rousing applause of Trump's supporters, Bannon concluded his speech with these words: victory or death. That's the way some of Trump's most fervent supporters see the election, as one that can only be lost if it's stolen from them, and as a battle that just cannot be lost. While that message resonates with the true believers, Donald Trump brought a decidedly different tone when he made a triumphant return to Capitol Hill this week, his first since before the January 6th attack more than 3 years ago. Republican leaders once condemned Trump for his behavior on that day and the days before, but now they are applauding him, embracing him. Even Mitch McConnell. Take a look at this awkward handshake. That's the first time the two men interacted since December 15th, 2020. That's the day McConnell congratulated Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on winning an election that Donald Trump will never acknowledge he lost. For Trump's part, he came to Capitol Hill without the talk of retribution and revenge that has defined his 2024 campaign. Instead, he talked of unity. He even endorsed a Senate candidate, Maryland's Larry Hogan, who has condemned and, in fact, still condemns Trump's behavior. The message from all of them, Trump and the other Republicans on the ballot this year, is together we will win. Well, almost all of them. Larry Hogan responded to the unexpected endorsement by saying that he is still not going to vote for Donald Trump. And there were several potential Trump running mates cheering him on as he returned to Capitol Hill. One of them joins me now, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Senator Scott, thank you very much for being with us this morning. I want to start with the Supreme Court's decision on Friday. Good morning. The Supreme Court's decision on Friday overturning an executive action by President Trump to ban bump stocks after they were used in what was and still remains the deadliest mass shooting in American history. Were you satisfied with that? Any concerns about that decision?
You know, John, it's simply this. We trust and believe and respect the decision of the Supreme Court. What we need to focus on, John, is the violence that we're seeing across this nation. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the greatest increase in violent crime in my lifetime. And so focusing on ways for us to reduce that crime means getting 4 more years of Donald Trump. Under Donald Trump, we actually respected law enforcement. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the movement to defund the police, leaving communities like the one I grew up in devastated and ravaged by a wave of violent crime that we have not seen literally in 5 decades.
Actually, Senator, as you probably know, the latest stats on violent crime and on the murder rate, they're actually down this past year. But let me get back to my question about the Supreme Court's decision.
Well, let's take a look at let's take a look at those crime rates. We've seen over 4,000 shootings just in the city of Chicago. We've seen a spike in violent crime. It's nice to see something plateau, but the fact of the matter is simple. Under Joe Biden, neighborhoods like the ones I grew up in have never been ravaged. Grandmothers,
but back
like
to
the one that raised me, are trapped in their houses from the time the sun goes down until it comes up again.
So to my question, though, on bump stocks, would you now favor a Congress acting to ban bump stocks? You had said after that shooting in Las Vegas that if the vote came up, it would sail through Congress. So are you in favor of that ban right now?
Well, I'm strongly in support of the Second Amendment, but what we're going to do in the party, and
I asked about the ban on bump stocks, not the Second Amendment.
We're going to focus on the priorities of the American people, and what the priorities of the American people are today is to focus on closing our southern border. Under Donald Trump, we had a precipitous drop in illegal border crossings. Under Donald Trump, under Joe Biden, we've seen an explosion. 10 million illegal immigrants have invaded our country, leading to migrant crime that we just saw just yesterday.
Okay.
A mother of 5 killed by an illegal immigrant. So what the focus will be is on the safety of the American people. That starts with focusing on our southern border.
Okay, so you're not going to answer that question. Let me get to Donald Trump's visit to Capitol Hill. I want to ask you about a few of the policies he spoke at in the meeting with the House Republicans and with the Senate Republicans. During the meeting with House Republicans, he declared that he, quote, loves tariffs. I'm just wondering, do you, I know you've been a free trader for as long as I've known you, do you love tariffs now?
Well, listen, one of the things that we have to do is recognize that we should focus on free trade, but free trade requires a fair competition. When you have China literally lying, cheating, and stealing our intellectual property, yes, tariffs create headwinds that actually levels the playing field. But more importantly, what we need is a president who understands how to fix our broken economy today. And Donald Trump led us to the strongest economy we've seen in the last 50 years.
So
it started with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that lowered rates and made us more globally competitive.
So let me ask you about,
absolutely steals our intellectual property, and that's devastating. We have to have headwinds.
So let me ask you about one of the specific policy ideas he floated while he was in Washington. He floated the idea of raising tariffs high enough to be able to eliminate all of the income that comes in from income taxes. Is that, I mean, by some calculations, that's a 70% across-the-board tax on everything imported in the country. Some other estimates, it's nearly 100%. Would you favor a policy like that, replacing the income tax with a massive new tariffs on everything coming into the country?
Well, John, I wasn't in that House meeting. I was in the Senate meeting. But what I can tell you he spoke about during the time with the Senate is actually exempting taxation on tips. The working class coalition that is now supporting Donald Trump is supporting Donald Trump because they know, looking back over his 4 years, they were better off under Donald Trump. Their wages went up, their taxes went down, they had more spending power. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the exact opposite. Their wages, frankly, have gone down, costs have gone up, and they have less spending power. And so what we talked about during the meeting with President Trump is the importance of focusing on the actual working class. Exempting tips is a great idea, followed by more tax cuts that actually generates more revenue to the Treasury and more money in the pockets of the average family. John, when we did this in 2017, we saw revenues go up to the Treasury in 2018 and 2019 and $4,000 back in the pockets of the average family.
So this was Trump's first visit to Capitol Hill since before the attack on January 6th. I want to play something for you that he said just days before he came back to Capitol Hill about those who have been convicted for attacking the Capitol. Take a listen.
Those J6 warriors, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're victims of what happened. All they were doing is protesting a rigged election.
So do you buy that the people that came in, beat up Capitol police officers, broke into the building, that they're warriors, or he's also called them hostages, that they're victims? Do you agree with that?
Anyone who attacks an officer, whether on the Capitol grounds or any place else in the country, should serve time. The question is, for those nonviolent folks who sat outside, who actually simply protested or came into the Capitol because the doors were open, who created no crime, no challenges, those folks today sit in crime in pre-trial. That's a devastation. Some of those have been in pre-trial incarcerated for longer than the sentence attached to that crime. But let me say simply, John, the greatest threat to democracy today is Joe Biden. It started back when he became president. We saw a botched Afghanistan withdrawal where 13 Americans lost their lives. We've seen a wide open, insecure, unsafe southern border with sleeper cells likely in our country, over 100,000 Chinese nationals crossing our southern border, men from Yemen, Iraq, and Afghanistan now populating our country, part of the 10 million illegal immigrant invasion.
Okay, Senator, the day before that violent mob attacked the Capitol, you put out a statement explaining your decision to certify Joe Biden's election victory. Do you stand by that? You were not one of those that challenged the results. You voted to certify Biden's election victory. Do you stand by that?
Certainly, I will stand by that decision and the next decision to certify the fact that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. November 5th, the day of reckoning, is coming. The early ballots go out in places like North Carolina starting in September. We're going to focus on making sure that we use every tool in the toolkit to make sure that this election results are clear and profound, and that the American people get 4 more years of low unemployment, low inflation, high enthusiasm, and a president respected and sometimes feared on the global stage. That president will be Donald Trump.
All right, and then very quickly, we're just about out of time, but you had said that Mike Pence absolutely did the right thing when he defied Donald Trump's demand to not certify that election. Do you still stand by that Pence absolutely did the right thing on January 6th?
The Constitution is clear. What we're trying to focus on is how do we make sure we get 4 more years where the American people, particularly kids like me, growing up in poverty, have the best future we could possibly have.
Senator Scott,
their
thank
version
you.
Of the American dream. That takes Donald Trump.
Senator Scott, thank you very much for being with us here this Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Yes, sir.